Captain Daniel stepped out of the transport ship and felt the cold air of the world hit his skin. Everything here was made of crystal and metal. The buildings were tall and sharp. Nothing was soft. Nothing was round. Everything pointed upward toward a sky that was not blue but silver. He wore his best uniform. It was pressed and clean. His boots were polished. His rank badges were visible. He knew that first impressions mattered, especially here, especially with them. They were not like humans. That was clear from the moment Daniel saw one up close. They were tall, at least 7 feet, with bodies made of something between skin and crystal. They had 8 eyes arranged in a circle on their face. They had 4 long appendages instead of arms, and they moved with a strange grace that made them look like they were dancing even when they walked. Daniel had studied everything about them. He spent 3 years learning their language, their culture, their history. He knew that they had built an empire that covered 2,000 star systems. They had technology that humans could not understand. They had weapons that could destroy entire planets. They had never lost a war. And now they wanted to meet with humanity. The message had come 2 years ago. A single ship appeared at the edge of human space. They did not attack. They did not take anything. They simply sent a message. They said they wanted to talk. They said they wanted to understand humans better. And they offered something humans had never been offered before, a chance to join the greater galaxy as equals. Or that was what the translation said. Daniel was not entirely sure what equals meant to the. A guide approached him. This was a who could speak English. His name had been shortened to something like Click, because no human mouth could make his actual name. Click made a gesture with one of his appendages, a motion that meant Daniel should follow. The palace was even bigger on the inside. Hallways stretched for what seemed like miles. The walls glowed with a soft light that came from inside the crystal itself. Daniel could see through some of the walls into other rooms. In one room, he saw standing around a large map that showed stars and planets. In another room, he saw what might have been a library, thousands of objects on shelves made of the same glowing crystal. Everything was ordered. Everything had a place. Daniel did not see a single thing out of position, not a single thing wasted or broken. Finally, they reached the throne room. It was enormous. The ceiling was so high that Daniel could barely see it. The walls stretched out forever in both directions, and at the far end, on a throne made of a crystal so pure it looked like frozen water, sat the queen. Prime was old by standards. Daniel knew this because her crystal skin had begun to show marks and lines, like cracks in ancient ice. Her 8 eyes glowed with a pale blue light. Her 4 appendages moved slowly, as if every motion took great effort. Around the throne stood advisors and guards. They all had their eyes on Daniel. He could feel them watching him, measuring him, judging him. Daniel walked toward the throne. Click remained at the back of the room. This was something Daniel had to do alone. He stopped at a distance he hoped was respectful. He put one fist over his heart and bowed slightly. This was the human greeting, and it was the only human gesture that seemed to mean anything to the. The queen did not move. She simply watched him. Her eyes did not blink. They did not blink. They did not have eyelids. "You are the human representative," the queen said. Her voice sounded like metal sliding across stone. It was not pleasant, but it was clear. "I am your majesty," Daniel said. "I am Captain Daniel of Earth." "Earth is a small world," the queen said. "It orbits a small star. Your people have only reached your own solar system. And now you come to me, to the ruler of the empire, as if you belong here." Daniel felt his hands shake slightly. He forced them to stay still. "We do not come as equals in power, your majesty. We know we are young. We know we are weak. But we come with honest intentions. We hope to learn from you. We hope to understand you." "Understanding," the queen repeated. "Why would we need understanding? We have knowledge, we have technology, we have power. What do we gain from understanding a young species?" This was the question Daniel had prepared for. This was the moment that would change everything. He thought about his instructions. He thought about the words he had memorized. He thought about what the experts had told him to say. And then he threw it all away. "Because," Daniel said, his voice steady now, "your people have everything except one thing. You have not learned what it means to value something that cannot be measured. You have not learned what it means to love something that does not make you stronger. You have not learned that the greatest strength of all is in caring for others." The room became very quiet, too quiet. Daniel could hear his own breathing. He could hear the hum of the machines that kept the palace running. He could hear the soft ticking of the devices that lined the walls. One of the advisors made a sound. It might have been anger. It might have been surprise. The Queen's 8 eyes focused on Daniel, all of them, at the same time. "You dare tell me what my people lack?" Daniel's heart was racing. He had made a mistake. He had broken protocol. He had spoken out of turn, spoken with emotion instead of logic. He was about to die on an alien world, and it was his own fault. But then something changed. The Queen leaned back in her throne. Her eyes did not leave him, but her body became less tense. "No human has ever spoken to me this way," she said. "You do not speak from fear. You do not speak from a desire to survive. You speak because you believe something to be true. That is unusual." Daniel said nothing. He waited. "You will stay in the palace," the Queen said. "You will meet with our people. You will help us understand your kind. And perhaps, if you are fortunate, we will learn something from you. Or perhaps we will decide that your species is not worth keeping around." The Queen turned her attention away from Daniel. She looked at one of her advisors and made a gesture. The gesture meant Daniel was dismissed. Click appeared at his side and guided him back through the halls. Daniel felt like he was floating. He did not know if he had succeeded or failed. He did not know if he had just saved humanity or doomed it. All he knew was that he had one chance, and he had used it in a way that was very human. He had taken a risk. He had told the truth, and he had hoped that it would be enough. Daniel spent 2 days in the palace without seeing the Queen again. He met with others instead. Some of them were scientists who asked him questions about human biology. Why were humans so fragile? Why did they need so much sleep? Why did they become sick so easily? Daniel answered as best he could, though the questions often made him feel small and weak. Others were historians. They wanted to know about human history, human wars, human failures. Daniel told them about humanity's struggles. He told them about the times humans had nearly destroyed themselves. He told them about the times humans had survived when survival seemed impossible. The historians listened and made notes on devices that worked by touch alone. The palace was a cold place. The temperature was set for comfort, which meant it was always cold to Daniel. He could see his breath in some rooms. The food that they offered him was not designed for humans, so Click brought him human food that had been stored on the transport ship. It was not fresh, but it was edible. Daniel spent his nights alone in a room made entirely of crystal. He could see the world outside his window. It was beautiful and terrible at the same time. There were no clouds. There were no oceans. There were only crystal buildings stretching out for miles and miles, all glowing with their own internal light. He wondered if he had already failed. He wondered if the Queen had decided that humans were not worth the trouble. He wondered if this was all just preparation for a rejection. And he wondered what would happen to Earth if they decided that humans were too dangerous to leave alone. On the morning of the 3rd day, Daniel was brought back to the throne room. But this time it was different. The room was fuller. There were more present. They stood in rows, arranged by rank or position, all of them silent and still. The Queen entered from a side passage. She was not alone. Walking beside her was another, smaller than the Queen but still tall. This had fewer marks on her crystal skin. Her eyes glowed with a brighter blue light, and she was looking directly at Daniel with what seemed like curiosity. "This is my daughter," the Queen said. "She has expressed interest in meeting you. This is unusual. She has expressed little interest in anything for several years. Stepped forward. She was younger, maybe in her 20s if ages translated to human ages. She moved with a grace that reminded Daniel of water flowing around stones. She did not wear the heavy formal clothing of the other. Instead, she wore something simpler, something that looked almost like a human style of dress, though it was made of crystal and metal. She approached Daniel, the guards shifted nervously, the advisors exchanged looks. This was not normal, this was not proper. "Tell me about your world," said. Her voice was different from the Queen's. It was lighter, less like metal and more like wind through musical instruments. "Tell me what it is like to be human on Earth." Daniel found himself speaking before he had time to think. He told her about forests and oceans. He told her about rain and wind. He told her about the taste of food and the feeling of warmth from the sun. He told her about music and laughter. He told her about the way humans sometimes gathered together just to be near each other, without speaking, without doing anything productive. Listened without interrupting. Her 8 eyes stayed on Daniel the entire time. When he finished speaking, she asked him a single question. "Do you miss it?" The question caught Daniel off guard, not because it was difficult but because it was so simple and so direct. "Yes," he said, "every day, every moment." Made a sound, it was not a word, it was something more like music. The other in the room reacted. Some of them made the same sound back, others remained silent. The Queen's eyes narrowed. "I understand," said. "I have never left this world. I have never been to another planet. I have never felt rain. I have never seen a true forest." The Queen says these things are not important. She says that understanding the universe through data and science is enough, but I wonder if she is right. The Queen made a sharp gesture and fell silent, but she did not look away from Daniel. She continued to watch him, as if she was trying to commit his face to memory. "My daughter spends too much time thinking about things that cannot be measured," the Queen said. "She wonders about things that do not matter. Perhaps your presence here will remind her why wonder is dangerous and why logic is sufficient." But Daniel saw something different in his eyes. He saw a young who felt trapped by a world of pure order and pure logic. He saw someone who had glimpsed something beyond her world and wanted to know more. The Queen stood and made another gesture. This one meant that the meeting was over, was led away by guards, but before she left, she looked back at Daniel one final time. Click appeared at Daniel's side and guided him back out of the throne room. But this time, Daniel did not feel the weight of possible failure. He felt something else entirely. He felt the presence of someone who understood loneliness, someone who understood wanting something more, someone who understood what it meant to feel alone even when surrounded by others. That night Daniel looked out his crystal window at the glowing city beyond. He thought about what the Queen had said about wonder being dangerous, and he realized something important. The Queen was right. Wonder was dangerous. Wonder made people question. Wonder made people change. Wonder was the most dangerous thing of all to a civilization built on logic and order. And somehow he knew that his meeting with was not the end of something. It was the beginning. Something was about to change in the palace. Something was about to change in the world. And Daniel, a young human captain from a small planet, was going to be the cause of it. He did not know how, he did not know when, but he felt it in his bones. The change was coming, and there was nothing anyone could do to stop it. For 4 days, Daniel did not see again. He met with more. He answered more questions. He explained human emotions and human relationships. He tried to help them understand why humans did things that made no logical sense, why humans sacrificed themselves for others, why humans stayed with people they loved even when it hurt, why humans created art and music and stories when they should have been working. They listened and recorded everything. Daniel could tell they did not fully understand. How could they? Logic and emotion were not the same thing. Humans lived in both worlds. They had abandoned emotion long ago. They had decided that it was inefficient. They had decided that logic was enough. But Daniel could see that his words had created questions in their minds. Some of the younger seemed to wonder about the things he was telling them. Some of the older ones seemed angry that he was even allowed to speak. On the morning of the 5th day, Daniel was in a room that they called the learning chamber. It was a place where information was displayed on walls and floors and ceilings. It was where young came to absorb knowledge. Daniel was standing in front of a display about human history when he heard a sound behind him. It was a sound he had learned to recognize, the sound of moving. Her footsteps were different from other. They were lighter, quicker, less certain. Daniel turned around, was standing alone, without guards, without advisors. This was dangerous for her and dangerous for him. If the queen found out that her daughter was meeting with the human without permission, there would be consequences. "I have been reading about your world," said without any greeting or greeting ritual. "I have been looking at the data that the scientists collected from you. I want to understand something that they cannot explain." "What is that?" Daniel asked. "Why do you care so much?" said. "Your world is small. Your people are weak, your technology is primitive, you have nothing that we need. You have no resources that we cannot get elsewhere, you have no military power that threatens us, and yet you came here. You spoke to the queen as if you were not afraid. You told her that she was missing something. You believed it. I can see it in your face and in your movements. You truly believe that what you have matters. But why?" Daniel had no prepared answer for this question, but he found himself speaking honestly anyway. "Because it does matter," he said. "Every human life matters. Every human thought and feeling and dream matters. We do not need to be powerful or rich or advanced to matter. We matter because we are alive, because we feel, because we care about things even when caring does not make sense." Made that musical sound again, the one that other reacted to. "I have been thinking about what you said about rain, about feeling it on your skin, about the randomness of water falling from the sky. I have been thinking about what you said about forests and the way trees grow without being ordered to grow in specific patterns. The queen says these things are chaos. She says that order is better than chaos. But I wonder." She moved closer to Daniel. This was a violation of protocol. This was dangerous. "I wonder what it would be like to have emotions that I do not understand. I wonder what it would be like to do something just because I want to, not because it serves a purpose. I wonder what it would be like to be surprised." Daniel could hear voices in the hallway outside the learning chamber. Someone was coming. Time was running out. "You should go," Daniel said quickly, "before someone finds us together." But did not move. Instead, she did something that Daniel had never expected. She reached out one of her appendages and placed it on Daniel's shoulder. It was the closest thing they had to a physical expression of emotion. "I am going to do something," said quietly. "Something that goes against everything I have been taught. Something that the queen will not approve of. Something that the advisors will say is foolish. I am going to do it because I want to understand what you have that we have lost." The voices in the hallway grew louder. Someone was definitely approaching. "I will see you again," said, "and when I do, everything will change." She turned and left the learning chamber through another passage, moving quickly, almost running. Daniel was left alone with his racing heart and his confusion. What was planning? What was she going to do? He did not have to wait long to find out. 3 hours later, Daniel was brought back to the throne room. This time it was packed with. There were more guards than before. There were more advisors, more officials, more observers. Something important was happening. The queen entered and took her throne. The room became completely silent. Then the gates on the far side of the throne room opened and walked in. She was walking directly toward Daniel. The guards moved forward slightly, but they did not block her path. The queen made no gesture to stop her. Everyone was waiting to see what the princess was going to do. Reached Daniel. She stopped directly in front of him, and for a moment they looked at each other. Daniel could see determination in her eyes. He could see fear. But he could also see something else. He could see a choice being made, a choice to break free from everything she had been taught. And then did something that had never been done before in the history of the Empire. She reached out with two of her appendages and wrapped them around Daniel in an embrace that mimicked human physical affection. The entire palace went silent. The silence was complete and total. It was the kind of silence that occurs only once in a million years, the kind of silence that comes when the rules of reality are being rewritten. Guards stood frozen. Advisors stopped breathing. The queen remained absolutely still, held the embrace for a long moment. Then she slowly released Daniel and stepped back. Her eyes glowed brighter than they had before. Her entire body seemed to vibrate with something that might have been fear or excitement or both. And in that moment, everything changed. No one moved. No one spoke. The silence continued for what seemed like an eternity but was probably only 30 seconds. Daniel could feel every eye in the room focused on him, and he could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on his shoulders. Then one of the guards made a sound. It was not words. It was a noise of alarm or protest. Another guard made the same sound. The advisors began to gesture to each other, their movements sharp and quick and clearly agitated. The queen raised one appendage slightly, and everyone fell silent again. She was looking at her daughter, and her expression was difficult to read. They were not good at showing emotions on their faces. They had learned to hide everything behind their crystal skin. Finally, the queen spoke. "Explain yourself, daughter." His voice was steady. "I have been watching the human. I have been reading the data about his species. I have been thinking about what he told us about his world. And I have realized that we have abandoned something important. We have abandoned the ability to connect with things that are not ourselves. We have abandoned the ability to feel something for another being simply because they exist. We have abandoned compassion." One of the older advisors made a sound of protest. "Your Majesty, your daughter is confused. The human has poisoned her thinking. This is exactly the kind of contamination we feared." The queen did not acknowledge the advisor. She was still watching. "Do you understand what you have done? You have broken protocol. You have shown physical affection to an alien species. You have made yourself vulnerable in front of everyone." "I know," said, "and I understand why you taught me never to do this. You taught me that showing weakness is dangerous. You taught me that emotional connection is inefficient. But I have realized that you were only partially right. Yes, showing vulnerability can be dangerous, but it can also create bonds that logic alone cannot create. It can build trust. It can create understanding that goes beyond words." Daniel stood very still. He did not want to do anything that might make this situation worse. He did not want to move or speak. He wanted to be as invisible as possible while everything was being decided. The queen descended from her throne. This was an action that caused immediate reaction in the room. The guards tensed. The advisors moved closer together. A queen did not leave her throne. A queen did not walk among her people in the throne room. This was not how things were done. The queen approached Daniel and she stood between them, her massive form blocking most of the light from the crystals in the walls. "You are a human," the queen said to Daniel. "You have come to my palace to convince us to accept your species as equals. You have failed at this goal several times. You have spoken out of turn. You have broken protocol. You have caused my daughter to act in ways that go against everything she has been taught." Daniel forced himself to breathe slowly. He knew that his next words might determine the fate of the entire human race. "Your Majesty, I did not ask your daughter to do anything. I did not encourage her. She made her own choice. She chose to understand something that goes beyond logic. She chose to recognize that another being, even one that is not, deserves compassion. And she was right. That is something that no amount of logic or knowledge can teach. That is something that has to come from inside. That has to come from the heart." The queen made a sound. It was not words. It was something deeper, something that seemed to vibrate through the entire room. When we built our empire, the Queen said slowly, we made a choice. We chose to value logic above all else. We chose to eliminate emotions that we believed to be inefficient. We chose to create a perfect system of order and progress. And we have been successful by every measure that we created for success. We are powerful. We are advanced. We are undefeated in any conflict we have faced. But my daughter's action today has shown me something that I had forgotten. It has shown me that power without compassion is empty. Order without connection is hollow. The Queen turned back to face all in the room. I want all of you to understand what you have witnessed today. My daughter has shown us something that we abandoned long ago. She has shown us that vulnerability can be a strength. She has shown us that emotional connection can be a path to understanding that logic alone cannot provide. I do not yet know if this is good or bad, but I know that it is real, and I know that we must consider it seriously. The Queen looked back at Daniel. Your species has something that we have lost, something that is more valuable than any technology or power, something that my daughter recognized instantly. For this reason, and for this reason alone, humanity will be heard. You will be allowed to speak before the Council of Elders. You will be allowed to present your case for why humanity should be accepted as an equal species in the galactic community, and I will listen to what you have to say. Daniel felt something release inside his chest. He had not realized how much tension he had been carrying until that moment. Thank you, Your Majesty. I will not waste this opportunity. The Queen made a gesture and guards came forward, but instead of arresting him, they formed an escort. You will remain in the palace. Tomorrow you will meet with the council. You will speak to the most powerful leaders of the. You will convince them that your species is worth preserving. You will have one chance to change the course of history. Do not fail. As the guards led Daniel away, he looked back at. She was watching him and her eyes glowed bright. She had taken an enormous risk. She had challenged everything her world believed in. And she had done it not because she had to, but because she recognized something true. That night Daniel sat in his crystal room and prepared his words. Tomorrow would determine everything. Tomorrow, the fate of humanity would be decided. Tomorrow, the Council of Elders would listen to him speak. And he would tell them the truth about what it meant to be human. He would tell them about sacrifice and love and hope. He would tell them about the things that made humans different from all the other species in the galaxy. And he would hope that it would be enough. The Council of Elders met in a chamber that was even larger than the throne room. It was a circular room with no walls, just open space inside a massive dome of crystal. 100 sat in concentric circles around a central platform. This was where the most important decisions in the empire were made. Daniel stood on the central platform. Around him sat the oldest, most powerful, most intelligent in existence. These were beings who had lived for hundreds of years. These were beings who had made decisions that affected billions of lives across thousands of star systems. The Queen sat at the highest point of the circle, watching, was not allowed to be present for this meeting, but Daniel could feel her presence anyway. Somewhere in this palace, she was waiting to see if her act of compassion had changed anything. The eldest of the council members made a gesture, and Daniel began to speak. I'm not here to tell you that humans are smarter than you. We are not. I'm not here to tell you that humans are stronger than you. We are not. I am not here to tell you that human technology is more advanced than yours. It is far behind. I am here to tell you something different. I am here to tell you that humans have something that you have lost, and I believe that something is more valuable than any power or knowledge. An advisor beside the eldest member made a sound of protest, but the eldest member raised an appendage, silencing him. Humans are different, Daniel continued. We feel things deeply. When another human suffers, we suffer. When another human rejoices, we rejoice. We do not calculate the value of helping someone. We simply help because we are connected to them. We are connected to all humans because we are all human. We are also connected to other species. We can form bonds with creatures that are not like us. We can love things that do not love us back. Daniel paused and looked directly at the eldest member. For thousands of years, your people have built an empire through logic and power. You have succeeded, you have conquered, you have advanced, but you have paid a price for this success. You have become isolated. Each is alone, even when surrounded by thousands of others. You do not truly connect. You do not truly understand each other. You are alone. Humans understand that we are never alone. We are always part of something larger than ourselves. We are part of families. We are part of communities. We are part of a species. And if we can learn to accept other species as part of our extended community, we can build something that your empire has never built. We can build a true civilization. Not a civilization of order and power, but a civilization of understanding and connection. Another council member stood up. And what of war? What of conflict? If we accept your species and teach them our ways, will they not eventually betray us? Humans have betrayed each other many times throughout our history, Daniel said simply. But we have also forgiven each other many times. We have learned from our mistakes. We have chosen peace over revenge. We have chosen love over hatred. These choices are not logical. They often make our lives harder, but we make them anyway because we understand something that logic cannot teach. And what is that? The second council member demanded. We understand that our species survives together or not at all. We understand that connection is more important than power. We understand that the measure of a civilization is not its weapons or its knowledge, but how it treats the weakest among it. We understand that true strength is in compassion. The room was quiet for a long moment. Daniel could see the council members exchanging glances. Some of them seemed to be considering his words. Others seemed angry or dismissive. Then the queen stood. All eyes turned to her. She descended the steps of her high position and walked to the center of the chamber where Daniel stood. "My daughter," the queen said, her voice loud enough for everyone to hear, "has shown me something today that I had forgotten. She has reminded me of something that I abandoned when I took the throne. She reminded me that before logic, before order, before power, there was emotion. There was the desire to understand. There was the desire to connect." The queen placed one appendage on Daniel's shoulder. This was a gesture of acceptance that few had ever witnessed from a ruler. The human speaks truth. We have built something great, but we have built it hollow. We are powerful, but we are alone. My daughter recognized this. She reached out to this human and connected with him in a way that our culture forbids. And in that moment, I realized that she was braver than I have ever been. She was stronger, because true strength is in vulnerability. The queen addressed the council. "I propose that we accept humanity as equals in the galactic community. I propose that we begin a formal relationship of trade and cultural exchange. I propose that we learn from them what we have lost. And I propose that together, in humans, we build a better future than either species could build alone." The vote happened immediately. It was unanimous. Every single member of the council voted to accept humanity, not as a subordinate species, but as true equals. Daniel felt tears running down his face. He did not try to hide them. He did not feel ashamed. He let the most powerful beings in the galaxy see him cry, see him experience emotion, see him be vulnerable. The queen made a gesture and guards escorted Daniel out of the council chamber. They took him back to his room in the palace. But this time, they did not seem like guards. They seemed like escorts of honor. When he reached his room, Daniel found waiting for him. "We did it," she said. "We actually changed them." "You did it," Daniel said. "I just spoke words. You had the courage to break the rules and show them what compassion meant." Made that musical sound again. "I want to learn more about your world. I want to visit Earth someday. I want to feel rain on my skin. I want to see a forest. I want to experience the things you told me about." "You will," Daniel said, "and I will help you. I will teach you everything about being human. Not literally, but the important parts. The parts about caring and loving and hopping for something better." 3 days later, Daniel boarded a ship to return to Earth. But before he left, he spent one final moment with on the highest point of the palace. They stood together looking out at the crystal city below them. "Thank you," she said, "for showing us that there is more to the universe than logic and power." "Thank you," Daniel replied, "for being brave enough to reach out to a stranger, for recognizing that connection matters more than rules, for saving humanity." "We saved each other," said. "That is what humans do, is it not? You understand that we are all connected. You understand that the survival of one species matters to all species. You understand that we are never truly alone." As Daniel's ship lifted off from the world, he looked down at the glowing crystal palace below. He thought about how a single moment of compassion had changed the course of history. He thought about how one young princess had recognized something true in a human stranger. He thought about how the greatest victories in the universe did not come from power or logic, but from the simple act of one being reaching out to another and saying, "I see you. I understand you. You matter." And as Earth grew larger on his ship's screens, Daniel knew that humanity had been given a second chance, not because they were powerful, but because they had something more valuable than power. They had heart. They had compassion. They had the ability to love things that were not like them, and that, Daniel understood, was the greatest strength of all.